If you're a mid-level to C-suite leader who wants to own your growth and figure out your next small, brave move to achieve your leadership goals, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Small Brave Moves podcast, a weekly deep dive on how to be braver in leadership and in life for exceptional results. I'm your host, Nicole Bianchi, best-selling author, certified master executive coach, NSA certified speaking professional, chief bravery officer, and tough talk expert. If you're ready to become a better, braver, and more authentic leader, let's dive in. Hey there, brave leaders. Welcome back to the Small Brave Moves podcast, where we tackle the messy and beautiful and sometimes bumpy road of leadership. Today, we're diving into one of the most requested and real conversations I have with executive leaders. How do you bounce back from a leadership failure without losing credibility? And yes, I'm talking about those moments when you wish you could slam the undo button on a decision, a conversation, or maybe even an action. You know those moments, right? The moments that you want to crawl under the conference room table. And here's the deal. Failure in leadership is not only inevitable, it's essential. Studies show that 60% of executives admit they've made significant mistakes that impacted their teams or organizations. And the difference between average leaders and exceptional leaders, it's not the exceptional ones that don't fail. It's that they recover with integrity, ownership, and yes, a whole lot of bravery. Now, if you've caught our earlier episode on the art of failing, you'll remember we talked about the 3 kinds of leadership failures, and I talk about them in depth in my book, Small Brave Moves. So slips are those small, often unintentional mistakes like forgetting to follow up on an important conversation or making an offhanded comment that lands wrong. Trips? Well, those are the medium-sized stumbles, missing a key deadline, misreading the room, or making a strategic misstep. And falls? Well, those are the big ones, breaches of trust, ethical lapse, or decisions that cause significant harm to a team or a business. Now, here's the good news. A slip, trip, or fall doesn't define you as a leader, but it's how you get back up. That absolutely does. So let's get into the important part, how to recover from failure with your credibility intact and make even stronger than before. So number 1, own it fast and fully. Leaders don't lose credibility because they make mistakes. They lose credibility when they deny, deflect, or disappear after making them. When you own your slip, trip, or fall, own it fully and fast. Delaying acknowledgement only breeds frustration and gossip. Try this. I made a call that didn't land well, and I can see how it impacted our team. That's on me. You see, your bravery isn't in avoiding the mistake. It's having enough guts to say, yep, I messed that one up. Number 2, make it right. Owning it is the first step, but repairing trust requires more than just words. So ask yourself, what action can I take to fix or soften the damage? How do I prevent this from happening again? And what do the people affected need from me? So for a slip, a sincere acknowledgement might do the trick. For a trip, you may need to adjust or process or even apologize publicly. And for a fall, well, you might need to do a full leadership recalibration. Think action plans, transparency, and accountability structures. Number 3, turn the lesson into a leadership strength. The best leaders don't just recover, they transform the failure into wisdom. They own that story and share the lesson. Ask yourself, what blind spot did this reveal? How can I bake this lesson into my leadership style? Who else can I show this with so they don't repeat the same mistake? When you show your team that you can stumble and grow from it, it gives them permission to do the same. You're modeling it for them. Number 4, lead forward with confidence. Here's the kicker. Once you've done the work, own it, fix it, and learn from it, and then let it go. No lingering guilt, over-explaining, or leading from a place of fear, because it's just as damaging as the mistake itself. Your team is watching you to see if you move forward with clarity and confidence. Exceptional leaders don't hide their failures. They model resilience, accountability, and grit. Now, I want to take the idea of failure in leadership one step further. The bravest leaders don't just bounce back from failure, they seek it out as part of leadership development. Because playing it safe might protect your ego in the short term, but it stalls growth, stifles innovation, and just creates this culture of fear. And when you avoid failure, you avoid progress. So, failure, when handled well, accelerates your team's learning. It builds those risk taking muscles and fosters innovation. And research tells us that teams who feel safe to experiment, even if they fail, outperform teams who operate in this culture of perfectionism. So, by embracing failure as a part of the process, you create a leadership environment where people aren't afraid to try, to learn, adjust, and grow. And that is where the real transformation happens. Okay, so this just happened to me, and I'm going to label this as a trip, but it sure felt like it was almost going to be a fall. Imagine submitting a story for a competition, and imagine it is due on a Friday. It's on your calendar, it's ready to go. You have the final product, you've gotten some last minute feedback, and you're thinking on Thursday, I think I'm just going to submit it early, only to find out it's due Thursday. And it's timestamped that it has to be due by 5 p.m. Central, and your clock reads 4:50 Central. That's right. That just happened to me. I don't know how I missed it. I don't know how the wrong date landed on my calendar, but I was ready. And so I went out to upload it, and the link was closed, which made my heart fall. So I'm sending emails so they're timestamped with the link to the video. I'm calling anybody I can think of that has the authority to say, yep, we've accepted it. We see it. We're good, Nicole. And it is about 2 minutes till the deadline when someone answers my call and says, yes, email it over and I'll send back a confirmation right away so that it will be seen that you've submitted this before the deadline. And when I got done with that, I just burst into tears because I had been working for the last 2 months on perfecting this 5-minute story. I had won the chapter finals and now was being moved to the regionals. And not only that, but the chapter had invested in me progressing to the regionals for this. And I remember just sitting there going, oh my gosh, I failed myself. I failed my team. I failed my chapter. And it took a lot to really process what had happened. And then to think, how do I not let this happen again? Or not that it's not going to ever happen, but what do I need to learn to put into place so something like this doesn't creep back on me? So the universe was definitely aligned for me that day because something made me stop and double check something to submit this. So, brave leaders, here's my challenge for you. Reflect on your last leadership stumble, big or small. How did you handle it? What did you learn? And what was your next brave move forward? You know, that next day I told my team, I said, I have something to tell you that's going to make your heart sink. And I walked them through the story and I owned it. I said, I was able to get it in, which is the good news, but I'm owning the failure of I almost missed a really big deadline for us that we've been working so hard on. So it can be a team building exercise, right? Gather your team and reflect together. Get all of the individuals to ask themselves the same questions and take time to share. At the end, reflect on how can we release any guilt or negative feelings around those failures? Because I had to do that myself. How can we reframe the failure to represent progress instead of setbacks? And how can we create a culture where failure is pursued instead of avoided? So while I submitted that in just in front of that deadline, what I was celebrating most is how I handled it in that situation and what I was able to do quickly to be resourceful and move forward. So normalizing these conversations, celebrating those learnings, and building your team's tolerance for failure by making it a part of your leadership rhythm. And if this episode gave you a new perspective, well, do me a favor. I'd love for you to rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. Here's what it does. It helps more leaders like you find these real, raw conversations around brave leadership. And don't keep this to yourself. Share this episode with a friend, colleague, or even your whole leadership team, because sharing this message might just be the small, brave move that gives your team permission to fail forward together. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Small Brave Moves podcast. If you're wanting to take this work even deeper, I'm here to help. From engaging in inspirational keynote speeches to transformational coaching and workshops for leaders and teams, page-turning books, online courses, and enlightening leadership development retreats. There are so many ways that we can work together to take your leadership to the next level. For more information, check out the show notes, and let's do this together, one small brave move at a time. See you next week.